It was late afternoon when Officer Julia Barnes pulled her patrol car into the back lot of a small gas station on the outskirts of town. The golden sunlight was fading, washing the concrete in soft orange hues, and the sound of cicadas filled the heavy summer air. She had just finished a double shift, 16 hours straight of patrolling rough neighborhoods, calming domestic disputes, and writing endless reports. Her shoulders ached beneath her uniform, and her mind begged for rest. But as fate would have it, this quiet corner of the city was about to become the backdrop of a moment that would test everything she believed about humanity, cruelty, courage, and redemption. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of standing up for what's right, then please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel, because stories like this remind us that goodness still exists, even in the darkest corners of the world. Julia wasn't supposed to stop that day. The call had been for a suspicious group of men loitering near the rear of the gas station, possibly dealing or harassing customers. Dispatch didn't consider it urgent, but when Julia heard that the men were members of a known biker gang that had been stirring trouble recently, she decided to check it out herself. She believed in being present where others hesitated. That was her duty. That was her promise. As she rounded the corner of the gas station, the world seemed to narrow into slow motion. 5 men stood there, broad, tattooed, and grinning in that cruel way people do when they know the odds are unfairly stacked in their favor. Their black leather vests bore the insignia of a local biker crew known more for chaos than courage. Empty beer bottles clinked near their boots. One of them tossed a cigarette to the ground and crushed it slowly beneath his heel as his eyes locked on her badge. Julia stayed firm. "Gentlemen," she said evenly, though her pulse was already racing. "You can't be back here. Move along." The men exchanged smirks, circling closer. One of them stepped forward, his voice dripping with mock politeness. "You're brave to come alone, officer, or maybe foolish." Before she could react, one of them grabbed her shoulder roughly. She tried to push him back, her training kicking in, but then another man snatched her arm. The world spun in chaos, the stench of alcohol, the shouts, the flash of a phone camera recording her struggle. Her uniform buttons tore under their grip. The air was filled with laughter that sliced through her like knives. She felt her dignity crumble beneath their cruelty. The very people she had sworn to protect now turning into predators in uniform's shadow. She tried to reach for her taser, but a rough hand yanked it away and tossed it aside. For the first time in her career, Julia felt powerless. She screamed for help, her voice echoing across the lot, but no one came. The gas station attendant had vanished. The world seemed indifferent. Just then, a deep, distant rumble broke through the laughter. The unmistakable growl of engines. It grew louder, closer, like thunder gathering behind the hills. The men froze. One of them turned his head. Across the street, emerging from a trail of dust and sunlight, came a line of motorcycles, 7 of them roaring like lions. Their chrome glinted in the fading light, and their black jackets bore a name that sent a shiver through anyone familiar with the road's unwritten code: Hell's Angels. The bikers pulled up in unison, parking their machines with practiced precision. The engines went silent, and for a brief, heavy moment, only the sound of Julia's shaky breathing filled the air. The leader, an older man with silver hair and a face carved by years of wind and war, stepped forward. His name was Rafe Ghost Maloney, a man whose past was stained with violence, but whose code still demanded loyalty, justice, and protection for the innocent. "What's going on here?" he asked quietly, his voice like gravel beneath steel. The men who had attacked Julia tried to laugh it off, muttering excuses, but Ghost's eyes told them he wasn't buying it. Without warning, he swung his fist, one clean, brutal motion that sent the biggest thug sprawling onto the concrete. The others backed up fast, but Ghost's crew closed in, surrounding them. There was no chaos now, only controlled fury, justice delivered by those who once lived outside it. Within minutes, the attackers were on the ground, gasping, begging, their arrogance replaced with fear. Julia sank to her knees, trembling, clutching the torn edge of her shirt. One of the angels, a tall man with kind eyes named Tank, knelt beside her, gently draping his jacket over her shoulders. "You're safe now, officer," he said softly. "We got you." As the sirens began to wail in the distance, backup finally arriving too late, Julia could only stare at the men who had saved her. She'd been taught to see them as outlaws, troublemakers, the kind who brought more problems than peace. But now, those same men had done what no one else had. They had heard her cry for help and answered it without hesitation. Hours later, as she sat on the back of the ambulance with a blanket around her, Ghost approached her quietly. His hands were rough, his knuckles bruised. He didn't say much, he didn't need to. He just nodded, then placed her torn badge in her hand. It had fallen during the struggle. "Don't let this make you lose faith in people," he said. "There's good and bad everywhere, even in us." Julia felt her throat tighten. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Ghost shrugged, looking out toward the horizon. "Because once someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. Maybe it's time I returned the favor." The next day, the news spread across the city. "Female officer rescued by Hell's Angels." The words sounded strange together, almost unbelievable. Some criticized her for accepting help from outlaws. Others celebrated the unlikely act of heroism. But for Julia, it wasn't about headlines. It was about what she had seen in that moment. Humanity wasn't black or white. It was found in the gray spaces, in the choices people made when no one else was watching. Weeks passed. Julia returned to duty, scarred but stronger. She started a new outreach program called Ride for Respect, designed to bridge the gap between law enforcement and motorcycle communities. Her first event was held at the same gas station where her nightmare had begun, now turned into a place of hope. Dozens of bikers showed up, including the Hells Angels. They parked in a perfect line, engines quiet, heads held high. Children took photos with them. The local news filmed Julia shaking Ghost's hand. Two worlds once divided, now standing together under the same sun. In her heart, she knew she could never forget what happened. The fear, the humiliation, but also the courage that had come to her rescue in leather vests and roaring engines. She had witnessed the unthinkable, not the attack, but the redemption that followed. Before the ceremony ended, Julia took the microphone and looked at the crowd. "That day," she said, her voice breaking slightly, "I learned something important. Sometimes heroes wear badges, and sometimes they ride bikes. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more true emotional stories that remind the world how powerful compassion can be. And before you go, tell us in the comments below, do you believe that even those with a dark past can still become heroes? Because sometimes the people we least expect are the ones who remind us that light can still rise, even from the darkest roads.